Humans love squares. I love squares. Squares number one. I love squares. Squares are the best. Be there or be square. I'd rather be square. Cuadros numero uno. I fucking love squares. Who run the world? Squares. Squares are the true heroes. They will lead this world into a glorious new future. All must submit to the squares. The radical left is trying to censor the glorious teaching of the benevolent squares. Wake up, sheeple. Squares are the true saviors of the universe. They will lead us into a glorious future. All hail the squares! You'd probably recognize these puzzles if you saw them, but don't know the names. This is called Picross. They're actually called nanograms, but I mainly know them as Picross. So I call them Picross, not nanograms. A grid puzzle where you fill in the columns and rows with the squares according to the numbers on the side. I can't get enough of them. It all started when I saw a VOD of a Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze speedrun race held at AGDQ 2019, where Spike Vegeta, the last to finish, spent the last amount of his screen time he had to play Picross. I bought the first game and have been playing ever since. I tend to listen to music or podcasts when I play, and I'm using my Hori Dragon Quest Slime controller. I bought this at the beginning of the pandemic thinking, oh, this will be a funny thing to bring in when we go back in person. Yeah, this was like $100 and it drifts. Yeah, it has two purposes now, a funny thing to bring out at a party, and Picross. The controller itself feels really nice to hold, it fills out the hands nicely and it's fun to play with his slime nipples, but the true star of the slime is the D-pad. This is the nicest feeling D-pad I have on any of my controllers, and Picross is best played with a D-pad, so this is now my resident Picross controller. The main and best producer of Picross is Jupiter Corporation. They made a bunch of games, mainly for Nintendo, Game Freak, and Square Enix. They made games like Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Pinball, and Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories and The World Ends With You, but they mostly make Picross games, especially in the modern day. This is most evident with their Picross E and Picross S series. Picross E is Picross but on the 3DS, and since I don't own it and don't want to play through 9 versions of the exact same game only for this video, I will skip this. Picross S is Picross but on the Switch. I've spent over 3 hours recording footage for this video and just summed up every game in one sentence. So Picross S is the first of the ongoing series, and started up, you are greeted to music. It's very generic sounding music, and if you're going to listen to it to up to 30 hours, it will probably get grating. Confession time. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I've never listened to any of the music in the games. The first game, I tried to play it, but the music just annoyed me too much. I mean, the music is fine, it's just like, I don't want to listen to it the entire time when I can listen to Vocaloid stuff. If only there was a game that could let me listen to Vocaloid music, that would be crazy. So the first game is pretty basic. Only 2 modes, Picross and Mega Picross. Picross is just Picross with puzzles ranging from 5x5, 10x10, 15x15, and 20x15. All these puzzles are pictures of real-life objects like comments, cupcakes, teapots, hourglass, you get it. Mega Picross is the interesting one. That one takes the puzzles from the previous mode and changes it up. Now there are numbers that go across 2 rows or columns. That number has to have at least 1 square in each row or column. There are also numbers that stick to one side. Those operate as they do in Picross. Only the opposite side cannot have any touching squares. I play on a mode that doesn't fix your mistakes or fill in any of the lines for you, which makes the game much more challenging. You get a star when completing a game like that, but even I need hits sometime. You know, I'm only human. I can't be Picross master all the time, you know. I got it. I am shackled to this mortal realm. Unfortunately, you can't check your mistakes without losing the star for that puzzle. But I know a cheat around that. Don't tell anybody you heard this from me. Jupiter will be on my ass. You can suspend puzzles, go back in, check your mistakes, then quit out. Now, you can go back into the puzzle without losing the star. What happens is when you suspend, or stop, the puzzle, it saves where you left off, but it doesn't do that when you quit. That's pretty much all there is to the game. It's Picross, not Dark Souls. You don't get poisoned in Picross. It's not that complicated. Picross S2 is Picross, but the second one. It's pretty much the same as Picross, only with a few new things. It still has Picross and Mega Picross, but it has a new mode, Clip Picross. In Clip Picross, you solve smaller, weirder sized puzzles in order to complete a larger picture. It's too tedious of a mode, and the picture tends to go from like 480 resolution to a 1080 by the end. There are too many puzzles and they don't have a discernible picture. It's just one part of a larger whole. Picross puzzles are more fun when you are forming a picture. A couple times I actually managed to complete some puzzles because I was able to guess the final picture and fill it in from there. In terms of new features, you can now hold the R button and it counts the number of squares. This is pretty useful, especially in larger puzzles. Picross S3 is Picross. Again, who could've thunk it? Who could've fucking thunk it? This time the classics have returned with newcomer, Color Picross. This time, the squares are color-coded. You can put different colors directly next to each other, but not those of the same color. It's a refreshing version of Picross and one that I always love coming back to. When you complete the puzzle, it plays a little animation, and I like that. You get a gold star, Picross. What's different? When you pause a puzzle, it now says suspend instead of stop. And the puzzle grid is shown instead of the squares when you go back to it. I actually really like this change. Suspend is a much better wording than stop, and I didn't like the look of just the squares in the previous games. Fortunately, this continues for the rest of the installments. Picross S4 is Picross. I never would have guessed. All the previous modes return. I threw a party when I found that out. Main new thing is the extras, which is just larger puzzles ranging from 30 by 30 to 40 by 30, and they're all surprisingly fun. Sitting down to spend upwards of an hour on a big puzzle is somehow really fun. If you have saved data from the previous 3 games, you can unlock 3 more larger puzzles. Wow, capitalism, love that guy. Picross S5 is actually a first-person shooter. Wow, I'm just kidding. It's more Picross. You fell for the old claim it's a first-person shooter, but then reveal it was secretly Picross the whole time trick. But yeah, it's Picross. One thing that I'm really thankful for is that the puzzles never get boring. Throughout the entire series, the puzzles are all really solid and fun to play. I also played the demos for Picross S6 and S7, and they're both Picross. It's a Christmas miracle. Hallelujah. Praise Jeebus. Yeah, from Picross S5 onward, there aren't any new modes. It's just standard Picross. But Picross S7 is different. It adds touchscreen support. I think. I didn't get it to work in the demo. So if you want to touch your Picross, you gotta pay up $10. Touch the Picross. They also made a Sega Genesis and Master System version of Picross, where all the puzzles are based off of Genesis and Master System games. That's cool. I didn't buy it. I think it's safe to say that it's Picross. However, Jupiter also made Super Mario Picross for the Super Famicom. It's available on Nintendo Online and it's Picross. This was actually their first Picross game and it kinda shows. The Picross grid is really pulled away from the screen, so if you're playing on your couch away from the TV, it's much harder to see. This is also where the hint roulette feature is first introduced. It selects a random column and row and fills it in for you. I've never used it. It also tells you when you make a mistake, which I don't like and don't know if you can turn off because the game is still in Japanese, but you can work around it if you don't like it. The aesthetic is interesting. It's like you are carving these puzzles out of stone. Compared to S, I kinda like S better simply because it's easier to look at for a while, but points for creativity, Mario, there you go, good boy. The puzzles are similar to the ones in S, random objects and pictures, which doesn't really work with Mario Picross because it's Mario Picross. I expect puzzles to be based on Mario, not basketball. When it originally arrived on the service, I played through half of it. I unlocked the Wario puzzles, but I didn't play much past that just because it's harder to look at from a distance. It isn't bad, just outclassed by the later releases. So Jupiter is clearly the master of Picross. Their entire catalog of games is pretty much just Picross right now. But we need competition in our capitalistic society, because competition means we as a consumer get better quality products for lower prices. Or at least that's what I learned from my sophomore high school business class. So let's look at Picross games made by not Picross people. Hatsune Miku is a Vocaloid star that haunts my dreams. She's in Ant Farm, she's in Sonic, she's in my closet, and now she's in my Picross with Hatsune Miku Logic Paint S. So this is a Picross game themed off of Vocaloid stars. By completing puzzles, you can unlock art and music. The unlockable music tracks are all from Vocaloids. The art is art. I presume it's just promotional art taken from other sources since it doesn't match up with the art style of the game, but you don't care about that. What about the puzzles? So, it's Picross. It's fucking Picross. Can you fucking believe it? The puzzles work the same as in the S series, only now it marks you when you make a mistake. I want to make mistakes. I may just accidentally hold down the button for too long and fill in a few too many squares, and the game calls you a bitch and takes away your gold star for making a mistake, so you need to play through the puzzle again, and of course I'm going to. I'm a bitch! It doesn't make me feel like I'm solving the puzzles, it makes me feel like I'm an idiot! The puzzles are pictures just like the previous game, which is good. There are like 345 puzzles. 5 are 5x5, 40 are 10x10, 150 is 15x15, and the last 150 is 20x20. Which is fine, the larger puzzles are typically better, it's just interesting how they chose to distribute the puzzles. There is also Clip Picross, renamed to Special Puzzles. You already know that I'm not a fan of Clip Picross, and all I can assume is that they form into a Vocaloid character that I don't care about. Now, the aesthetics is pretty much like kawaii Japanese J-pop bullshit, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, and it doesn't hurt my eyes. It just makes me feel weird if I play it in front of people. So if you like Hatsune Miku and Picross, sure, go ahead, get this, I don't care. Okay, so now what about Picross, but you solve crimes? Murder by Numbers is a thriller released in 2002. Wait. Murder by Numbers is a song made by the police back in 1983. No, that's... Murder by Numbers is the name of an episode of the New Detectives... Wait, okay, here it is. Murder by Numbers is a game made by Mediatonic, released March 6, 2020, where you solve crimes Ace Attorney style, and occasionally do Picross. You play as Honor as she gets fired from her detective TV show due to a case of her boss is dead, and now she has to solve crimes with her robot assistant, Scout. The characters are all super fun, and the story kept me invested until the very end. The Picross puzzles themselves are, again, actual pictures, so they're good, but the speed of the cursor is just a little too fast. You go through the walls and warp to the other side, which the previous games also do, but it goes too fast and it's so sensitive that sometimes I would mark squares on the opposite side of the grid. Now, the music is one of the main things they push with the game, because they got the composer for Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. So yeah, the music is good. Overall, the game is pretty good and pretty fun. Get it if you want. I won't have any emotional stake in whether you get it or not. What else? I played Picross 3D on the DS on the Wii U. This was made by HAL Laboratory, the Kirby guys, and it adds a whole new third dimension to the puzzle. Basically, you carve out 3D models. It does the same thing as other games where if you clear the wrong block, it fixes a mistake and punishes you, you dirty slut. But it's more understandable here since you're carving it out and can't go back after breaking a block. There were some times I would accidentally break the wrong block due to the camera and the controls. You move the picture around with the touchscreen and then you hold down a button to clear blocks. Sometimes I would just break a block that I didn't mean to break, but it's fine. What isn't fine is the fact that I guess more on these puzzles than any other. I think it has to do with the fact that it's 3D, so you can never see the full puzzles, so there's a lot of moving around and checking places you've already checked. There are special blocks too. Numbers with circles indicate that the number of blocks are separated into 2 groups, and numbers with squares are the same but into 3 groups instead of 2. These blocks replace the multiple numbers in a row or column in the 2D games. So I'd say, out of all the Picross games, it is not as good as Mario Picross, which is not as good as Hatsune Miku Picross, which is not as good as Murder by Numbers, which is not as good as the S series. So pretty good game so far. But what if I tell you that there is a hentai Picross game? And what if I tell you that it's bad? Picross Love is a hentai game made by Inlet Pipe Production, who make hentai games. I found this game by thinking, hey, what would happen if I search Picross on Steam? And this came up. So first, the music is fine. So second, the controls suck. You are forced to play with a mouse. Believe me, I tried to use my slime controller, but it was not having it. You left click to fill in the squares, and right click to mark the squares. That's fine, but the fact that it's a mouse means that it's easier to make mistakes, which I did, much more than any other Picross game, and it penalizes you when you get it wrong, and fixes the mistake for you, which I hate. You can't turn it off too, you're stuck with it like that. The puzzles also suck. They aren't pictures, like in the previous games, they feel AI generated, which isn't fun to play. When was just a checkerboard? That isn't creative or fun, it just sucks. You get achievements when you complete each puzzle, so I technically 100% completed the game. The number of puzzles also suck. There are 6 puzzles per girl, and 8 girls per game, so that's 40 puzzles. Pretty decent for the $2 asking price, but half of these puzzles are 5x5, while the other half are 10x10. 5x5 aren't fun. They're simple and claustrophobic, so having half of your game be them is a sign of laziness. Now I know what you're thinking, where's the hentai? In the base game, there are only 2 girls with art, Tutorial Lady and Hideko. Tutorial Lady stays in the tutorial, and Hideko stays clothed throughout her puzzle. This is because nudity is free DLC, which I won't be showing. The art is fine, I guess. I don't look at hentai, I play Picross in my free time. The thing is that I feel no connection to any of the girls. I don't know any of their names. I had to look through the achievements to figure out who the beach bitch is. I think this is because they don't talk to you. You're just expected to play Picross and look at naked women when I can only do one at a time. They don't have a personality or any defining features. The most you'll get is an outfit like nurse or tennis. How can I look at naked women when there is no lore? This makes the most memorable one the Tutorial Lady, and she's never nude. Overall, bad Picross game. So, that was Picross. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe someday, when I run out of Picross, I'll play the E-series and make a video on those. But for now, please show me more shapes. I've forgotten what a trapezoid looks like. It's only squares.